In this tutorial in spacemaker, we're going to be looking at some of the modeling tools to kickstart our site. So we'll be following in a linear fashion from left to right. Here we have our site. We're in 3D at the moment. We can do this in 2D or 3D. I have added some layers here, so if you need to, you can turn off some of the layers. What I want to do is start off with the line edited building. You can see here there's H if you need more information. So I'm going to start off with that so it's active, and I can draw from point A to point B. I can tab to get the distance. Let me just do that. Now I can type in the distance here just by clicking that node. Some things that we have here which would be of interest is you've got the minimum section length of that building. So this distance in here, you could change that to say 18, and that will reduce the number of units we have here. We've got the story height, 3 meters or 3.2, and we can maybe crank this up to 6, and the width maybe 15. Another cool little feature here is the offset. So maybe for each one of these units, we might want to drop that down to 12, and we want to stagger that by maybe 4 meters. We can do some cool things like that. So that could have views to the park that's over here, which is sorry, view to area, that one there. So there's little things like that you can do to optimize the design. And here we have the different types. So at the moment, by default, it's set to residential. If you want to see that color-coded, it will show up like this. Let's say we want to turn part of that into commercial. So maybe the lower levels here might be shops or supermarkets or something. You can go and do that, and it will color code as needed. So that's a simple one for doing a linear type design. And of course you can start to adjust the percentages of the units. So this one is currently set to mixed. I won't do the convert to Polygon building just yet. We can look at the custom mix of the units. So this one, I just don't want 40 square meters. That's pretty tight, and we'll just take out the really big ones here. So we can go and generate, and now when we go to this unit sizes, we can see it's gone and done some interesting things here. Interesting to see with this one here, with the core being on the outside of the building. We can manipulate this further when we go to the floor plan. So when you select over each one of these, by default, it will have some core options for you. You want to ideally not have the core on the outside, have it on the inside, so the perimeter of the building can maintain views and daylight, depending on the rigs where you're working. A little tip here, if you want to grab all the floors, hold down the Shift key, and you can see it's grabbing them all here. And I can see here's core C, core B is going to be my preferred one. And I'll do the same for this one, move it to core B, and this one, core B. Now, you can probably guess that you don't need to have as many cores. As we would go through and develop this, we'd probably look at how we would optimize the corridor space, whether it's internal or external. We'd need to look at fire evacuation, so stair cores, maybe one central core in the middle with lifts and stairs and risers. So there's a few more things to take into account for this, but this is a very quick way to start getting some massing out for our building. And of course it's reporting here on the right hand side as well. So there's a few stats that are showing up here as we go to change stuff. So we've got a certain amount of commercial, 400 square meters, but we can go and grab more parts of this model, and I can move that to commercial, and you see the ratios will start to change. So that's the first bit. So I'll just delete that for now, and we'll look at the Polygon building. So this we can get into a bit more fidelity. So we could, I'm just going to pan along a little bit here. We could go and do something here. You can see what's nice. You've got the ability to work at angles. We can make this say 18 meters, 18, and then bring this one out. So kind of that to close it up, and then we'll leave it at 0 for the elevation, and then we'll make it say 12 meters for the height. Sorry, 12.6 for the height. And now we have a polygon building. This here, when you click on it, you can see you've got these nodes to manipulate. So you can start to angle things out if you want. So I could do that, or even type in an angle. You could also break this up should you need to. Let's just finish that command. So here you'll see you can select on each individual floor plate, and let's say at the bottom level this is going to be recessed in a little bit. I can go and click on that little node there and then take that in a little bit. So I'll take that in, say, 4 meters, -4 meters. And we can start to shape up our building like that. So there's these great little tools which allow you to manipulate the design as needed, and you can have a bit of fun here. So again, 45, and we're starting to get some shapes happening with our building. Hit return to finish that up, and of course, like before, you can go and put that onto whatever it needs to be for that particular layer. So this one, when we go to the color coding here, should show up with some color coding. Yeah, this one here, you can see we put that as a living unit, but let's say we wanted to do a bit more with this. So let's say we wanted to take this down to, sorry, undo, to do -12. So it was like a 15 meters. It's probably a generous corridor, but again, you could start to say that this is part of the core. So there's a few things you can start to do here to get to a bit more detail, and so we drop back to this sort of function here. So a nice tool here for doing polygon modeling. Another really fast one here is the auto building. So you can see I'm hovering over the site, and we can, it's grabbing the whole site. We'll just click on that for now. That will do the perimeter of that site. So here we have the city blocks, like a linear type design here, tower buildings, and then one big massing volume. So if I look at, say, this one here, again, we can look at how many stories we want to have, the orientation, so there's the length, and then we can start to play around with the angles. So this is kind of a nice getting started tool where you can manipulate all of these items to develop your building, and then you can apply that to the site, and then you can grab these again and you can start to change these as needed. Okay, so just get rid of that again, and we now have division lines, so you can divide this up a little bit. So before this filled the whole site, so I want a division line to perhaps be in here where that road is. So we can add that, and now when you come to do the auto buildings, you can see it will fill that site as needed. Just got to go back to 3D, so it's a handy little tool. Zones, so again, zones, you can start to do zones in your area, and then you can start to filter for analysis. So pretty simple tool here. I'll just do this very ad hoc, so you can start to add some zones in there. I'll just take those out for now. A cool one here is parking. So if you've ever had to do parking layouts, they can be very tiring. So let's say we do a zone here for parking, and we'll say we'll do it on this side of the site, because doing anything that might be underground near water always causes problems. So this is going to be our zone for parking, and I'll go and choose that now, and I'll just go to the top of that again. I'm doing this very rough. So there's our spot for parking, and by default it's going to 2D here. It's got some settings here for the typical layout for the parking, so I can go and use parking up to the edge, driving lane, line in a rows. You can start to quickly do this should you need to. You can also go to edit parking here. So we've got 81 spots, depending on the amount of units, what the regulations are for the planners, for development applications, etc. Depending on where you are in the world, you may have to have one car parking spot per unit, maybe two. You can go and change all this here. So the width, 2.5, some developers will try and get it down to 2.4 to get in an extra few units. 5.2 is reasonably okay. It may be better to do angled parking here, so you can start to do that. You can start to look at the lane width, 7 meters. Some may even push it down to 6, which is incredibly tight. I'll leave it at 7. We have column width, so at the moment you'll see between each bay there's space, potentially four columns, which are always fun. Again, you can change that depending on the grid that you would typically work for your building. So you can see it's getting pretty tight in there. Here, column widths here. So we crank up those column widths depending on the structure above. It will change. That one there was looking at the lane width, sorry. So let's put that back up to 6. Spots between columns, so we can start to adjust that. So this might be to do with your downstand beams going between column to column. If you're looking at 2.4, maybe you can get 3, because it might be a 9 meter span between column to column. But again, this comes down to the structural grid that you've adopted for your project, and this will come down to cores, it will come down to the unit layout. So car parking can be a fiddly one to get right when you've got that structure transferring down to the car park building. And then there's a buffer from wall. Again, if you're building next to the water, you may end up getting some seepage in here, and you'll need to have a channel around the edge. For some apartment buildings, it's good to actually have a setback here. You can put in storage cages for the tenants at the end of the car park, so they can add more value. Again, how many spots will you sacrifice if you have that setback for a cage? So we're maybe losing six spots. So we have a 3 meter cage, and we get an extra 6, so we have a 2 meter cage. And then finally, the number of levels. And this is going down into the ground. It is a 2D diagram here, but we can go to a number of levels here, and we can go down maybe 10 levels and get 660 car parking spaces. Maybe 3 might be feasible, so maybe you've got 200 units, 198 parks. So yeah, that's the car parking tool. And when you flick into 3D, you'll see it's 2D. So it's all about the calculations, and of course you can turn this on and off in the layers because it's being created here. Okay, so last couple of things here is the move, rotate, and there's a measurement tool. You can start to show grids. You've got the levels, you've got angles, angle increments, and you can measure distances. So here I'll just turn off the car parking, and we'll just go and use that auto add building here. And now we want to maybe have some space between these buildings. And here, if we want to move one of those buildings, so let me just apply those auto buildings. So here I want to move that building. You can go and hit move, and there's a little snap tool here, and you can move it, and type in the amount you want. And then if I want to rotate it, I'm just going to go and click here and here, and then rotate it to. Now it's not. It's actually working to the 360-degree grid here. So let's go 345. So handy little tools like that, and you can see some other tools came up when we want to manipulate that design. So there's add a section, and this one is just breaking up the design a little bit here, so you can start to change it a little bit. And then here you can add a point, and this one might be allowing you to do a little bit more when you come to flex the building. So this is following the internal linear control here. So now you can break this building up a little bit, and I could get into deleting certain items, or I could play around when I double click some of these. You can start to do a bit more with the design. So that's it. Some handy little modeling tools here to get you up and running with your design inside of spacemaker.